It's an unfortunate fact of life in radiography that very few radiographers understand the actual geometry of what they're dealing with. Here's another example. This is the focused X-ray grid, focused to 120 centimetres. Now, if I narrow down the beam this way, and if I angle the tube this way, does that mean there's going to be grid cutoff? Think very carefully. Does that mean grid cutoff? If your answer is yes, then I'm sorry, you've failed a fundamental, basic, obvious test. You do not understand the geometry. Now, this particular test in geometry is what I've been doing for the last 20 years. And unfortunately, only 1 in 4 qualifieds actually pass this test, and only 1 in 20 students pass the test, which is a real indictment and the way the radiography is taught and understood. But it relates back to that grid situation. If you got the wrong answer there, if you said there was grid cutoff, then you haven't understood the geometry. Now here's the big test. This point here is projected down to create a shadow here. Now, the question I have asked about 200 students and about 200 qualifieds over the year is, what happens when I change the angle of the tube? I'm not changing where the X-rays are coming from, I'm just changing the angle of the tube. What will happen to this particular shadow when I angle the tube? Some say this way, some say that way. The answer is, the shadow does not change when the tube is angled. Now the reason for that is that the X-rays are coming from a point up here, and this point where the X-rays are coming from does not move when the tube is angled. Therefore the geometry does not change. Now the consequences of that is that you can change the angle of anything and you don't change the geometry. Therefore you are changing the centering point by changing the angle and not changing the geometry.